You know, I'm old enough to remember when insinuating that the 2020 election was rigged would get you thrown off of any social media website there was. Not just one, but all of them. I'm old enough to remember that saying, you know, I don't think Joe Biden got 81 million votes. I think there's some hanky-panky going on. I remember when that would get a fella demonetized. It would get us doxxed. It would get us deleted. It would get us censored. It would get us canceled. It would get us totally suppressed. You'd get weird looks from all your friends. People would stop coming over for Thanksgiving. I remember when saying, you know what, that 2020 election, how is it that Joe Biden got 81 million votes, the most popular president in history during COVID? Is that real? Are we really supposed to believe that? Donald Trump would yell, rigged, I tell you, rigged. And what did they do? They shut down his Twitter account. They shut down his Facebook and his Instagram. They shut down his Pinterest page. How did we ever survive without Donald Trump's Pinterest page? I don't know if Donald Trump has a Pinterest page now. I imagine he probably does. But could you believe, I mean, if somebody can find it, put it in the chat, because I'm curious to see. Here's what I imagine Donald Trump is pinning. The new Trump Mobile T1 Gold phone, a pair of those Trump Force One Gold sneakers that he was selling at SneakerCon last year, probably a whole bunch of other fantastic Trump merchandise, the watches, the perfume, the guitars, all that stuff. Not to mention some wine. Oh, the new plane that's being retrofitted, courtesy of Qatar. I imagine that's probably on there. If anyone can track down Donald Trump's Pinterest page, let me know, because I would love to see it. Listen, before we get into this whole thing with the FBI now investigating the fact that the 2020 election could have been rigged, and guess what? Guess who could have rigged it? China. And why does that not surprise anyone? Because China and Joe Biden are basically the same person. China and Joe Biden, basically the same. It's like one and the same. It's two individual. One's a country, one's an old geezer. And when you put them together, though, they're like one person. It's kind of like when you get married in the church and they say, man and woman, two people become one. That's kind of the relationship that China and Joe Biden have. So when Joe Biden was running for office in the basement on the Zoom calls, calling Charlemagne the God not black because he doesn't know if he's going to vote for him or Donald Trump. When Joe Biden was doing all that stuff in 2020, really, it didn't really seem to matter that he wasn't campaigning. It didn't really seem to matter that he was going out, because there's new evidence that China may have had a hand in making sure the election went the way that they wanted it to, and the way they wanted it to was the way that Joe Biden wanted it to go too. Because it kept Donald Trump out of office. And we now know, and we know why. Look, we're going to get to all of this here in just a minute. First, though, please make sure that you are subscribed to this podcast. We have a brand new podcast platform, which I'm really excited about. And I think that you're going to find that the dogs are also really excited about the new podcast platform. I don't know if you can hear them in the background, but the deliverability is going to be better. I know on my end, the customer service is better. I think that we're going to be doing a lot of really cool new things with the podcast. We're going to be doing a lot more podcasts, not just the 47 Daily, but also Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. So if you haven't yet subscribed, go to wherever you're on your iTunes or your Spotify, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you say, yeah, I like this. I love it. I want more of it. If you're watching on YouTube or Rumble or Facebook, you got to make sure that you're not only subscribed, but getting those notifications, because the notifications are the way to go. Let me ask you a question. What's better? Just trying to remember something, or having somebody walk in and go, it's time for this? And you go, oh, right. Thank you so much. You know, that's why we set reminders. That's why we have alarms. That's why we have Siri and Alexa and all these other things. So you want to make sure that you're setting the reminder. It's technology, folks. It's there for you. It's there to make your life better. And if you're like, man, I love Mark Kaye Saves It. Man, I love this show. I love watching it every day. Mark Kaye Saves It's the best. But you sometimes forget, or you're busy during the day. Set the notification. Let the AI bots, let the automation work on your behalf so that you never miss it. Because it's just going to get better and better and better and better. Donald Trump posted just moments ago on his Truth Social the following, in all caps: unconditional surrender. And at first, I didn't know if this was for Iran or Tucker Carlson. Sorry, because Tucker Carlson. I'm sorry, Kooky. I'm sorry, I meant Kooky Tucker Carlson, because that's Donald Trump's new nickname for Tucker Carlson is now Kooky Tucker Carlson. I don't know if you know that or not, but but Donald Trump was on a tweet fair. He was on a Truth Fest overnight. What happened was he left the G7 summit early. And if you listen to the 47 Daily earlier today, you know all this, but you're going to hear it again because it's important. Yesterday, he went to the G7. He spent about 12 hours in Canada until he realized, you know what? That's about enough Canada for me. You know, you walk around, the money's all weird looking and it just smells like beaver. And you're just like, yeah, I got a 12 hour. It was nice, but now I got to get back to civilization. But he left Canada. He left the G7 early, and he said that it was because of what was going on in Iran and with Israel. And the situation was getting worse, or it was exacerbated, or it was all these different things. So Donald Trump said, thank you very much. I'm going to have my dinner. I'm going to get on my plane. And he flew back to Washington, D.C. He landed at 5:30 a.m., immediately went to the Situation Room so that he could go back to work, saving the entire world. But in the meantime, he was on the plane just truthing, because that's what Donald Trump does, right? You're on the plane. He's got Wi-Fi. That's the thing. Donald Trump doesn't have to pay for Wi-Fi. When I get on the plane, and depending on what airline, if it's Delta, I think I get free Wi-Fi. I'm not sure if it's American. I think I have to pay. But it depends on, what your frequent flyer status is, or what kind of perks you have for your traveler program. But you get on the plane, you got to log in, you got to set up the Wi-Fi. Sometimes you have to use a passcode. Sometimes you have to pay, and it's okay. It's not the best. But Donald Trump, man, he's got Air Force One. He's got Wi-Fi. He's got 3 hours to kill. So what does he do? He gets on True Social, and he just goes through the litany. He goes through all of it. Yesterday, 11 hours ago, that would have been, in the middle of the night. America first means many great things, including the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Make America great again. And that is true. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Then he wrote on Truth, somebody please explain to Kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Because Tucker Carlson, I guess in Donald Trump's eyes, is kooky. Tucker Carlson, and look, I don't think Tucker Carlson is kooky. I don't know Tucker Carlson personally, but I've seen him in concert and I've listened to him, and we have the same friends. And so I was thinking about it. I don't think he's kooky. I think he's always been this way. But what's happening with this Israeli situation is this is a situation that people in the Republican Party have very different viewpoints on. People look at America first, and they see America first as, in very different ways. And then there's the idea of Donald Trump's role in this conflict. Donald Trump said a month ago, he picked up the phone, he called Benjamin Netanyahu and said, do not bomb Iran. It's not a good time. We're in the middle of talks. We're negotiating. Do not bomb Iran. And a reporter asked him, said, did you actually do that? And Donald Trump said, I want to be honest. I did do that. Yeah. I said no. I said, don't bomb Iran. And everyone was thinking, oh, look at that. Donald Trump's a peacemaker. Then, of course, Donald Trump pulls our troops away last week. The bombs start flying. And Donald Trump says, look, I knew it was coming. I was on the phone with Netanyahu. I gave Iran 60 days. And on the 61st day, the bombs fell. So then everyone was like, wait a minute. Why is Donald Trump allowing this war to happen? But Donald Trump said, it's not our war. It's not our conflict. It's them. Israel is there, and Israel is saying that they are retaliating for October 7th. They're sick and tired of Hezbollah and Hamas and all these other state sponsors, or these state-sponsored terrorist groups from Iran, using the Iranian money, using the Iranian oil money, using the Barack Obama, tarmac money, whatever the money they're using. They're sick and tired of getting killed and bombed and blown up, and they're sick and tired of watching missiles fly above their head and living in terror. I mean, you don't want to live in terror. Israel's a beautiful place. You don't want to have to be concerned that you're going to die every time you go out to get a knish. And so Donald Trump, knew it was coming. But a lot of folks were saying, isn't Donald Trump knowing it's coming and not stopping it the same as giving it the green light? Isn't Donald Trump telling Benjamin Netanyahu after 60 days you can do whatever you want, the same as him basically green lighting the entire thing and giving his blessing, if you will? And that's where the debate comes in. And Tucker Carlson saying, not only do you have to not start new wars, but you have to be a peacemaker. And if you know a new war is going to start, you have to do everything you can to stop it. Not saying that Donald Trump didn't. But evidently it's caused a rift because Donald Trump is now referring to Tucker Carlson as kooky Tucker Carlson. Mark Levin, Mark Levin from Fox News. Mark Levin comes from the Bush administration. He is a 9/11 war on terror, Saddam Hussein, Desert Storm. I mean, he was one of the captains in the Bush administration during that whole era. He wrote speeches for George Bush, which is a tough thing to do. I'm sorry. He wrote speeches for George Bush during that entire militaristic, 1990s, early 2000s. And so he's all about Iran not having a nuclear weapon and bombing Iran. And he'll go on a diatribe about how the United States of America and Israel must do whatever they can to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon. Dust off the bombers. Get them in the air. And so Mark Levin has now come out against Tucker Carlson, and Mark Levin is calling him Chatsworth Catarlson, which I love the nicknames. I love that. I'm underutilizing nicknames in my life. Now that I've embarked on a political career, now that it's Mark Kaye for Congress and not just Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, now that I'm going out and I'm doing speeches and, remind me later to tell you a funny story about a speech I gave last night. But now that that's part of my repertoire, now that I've really got to get some nicknames going. I've been slacking on that. I've been working on putting together a fantastic website where you can make donations. MarkKforCongress.com, by the way. Any and all support is appreciated. $25, $50, $100, $3,500, which is the amount that is the maximum amount allowed by a single donor by the FEC. But if you go to MarkKforCongress.com, you can make your donation today, and we would appreciate it. But I've been busy doing that and putting together, some kind of comprehensive agenda and talking points and letting everybody know what it is I stand for and why I feel like I would be a better representative than the guy who's there. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. My coffee mug would be a better representative than the guy who's there. Delicious. But the fact of the matter is, I've been neglecting the nickname game. So now I've got to really start coming up. I got to start coming up with nicknames for John Rutherford. I've got to start coming up with nicknames for the Democrats. I've got to start coming up with nicknames for whoever else may enter the race. So hopefully nobody, but I imagine I'm not lucky enough to just be the only person to see that this is a seat where change is needed, and to have the wherewithal to think I'm the only one that can do it. Anyway, we'll get back to that in just a minute. So Chatsworth Catarlson and kooky Tucker Carlson this is our government in action, are at odds, if you will, over the war. So when Donald Trump wrote unconditional surrender, I imagine he's talking about Iran, but he could be talking about Tucker Carlson. And again, I like Tucker Carlson. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. But Donald Trump has been very clear his entire political life, since 2015, since he came down the escalator and started giving speeches and started putting together a foreign policy and started running for office, and his first entire term and the 4 years in between and the 4 years after that, Donald Trump has never wavered from the idea that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Don't let Iran have nuclear weapons. They can't have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon. You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And I don't want it to be a violent thing, but they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon. Very simply. They can't have a nuclear weapon. We're not going to allow that. They can't have a nuclear weapon. That's all. They can't have nuclear weapons. But I wanted to make a deal with them. No nuclear weapons. You can't have nuclear weapons. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. That was the only thing. The one thing I said, you cannot have. I just didn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I said, we're going to make a great deal. Everybody's going to be happy. You're going to be rich as hell again. Everything's going to be great. But you cannot have a nuclear weapon.
You can't let Iran have nuclear weapons.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. We have a very hostile country that wants nuclear weapons. You can't let that happen.
Iran should never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon.
Iran can't have a nuclear, it can't have a missile, can't have a nuclear missile. It cannot have that nuclear capability.
I mean, you don't get any more clear than that. That is a non-wavering politician. That is somebody who has never waffled, never wavered, never changed course, never changed their mind. From day one, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. To just this morning. This was this morning. Okay. See if this sounds familiar. This was just this morning on Air Force One.
Remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple.
It's the same words over and over and over again. And that's why we're in the position we are today, because President Donald Trump and Israel are saying, look, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And Israel has been targeted. And I'll be honest with you. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, said something to Jesse Waters. And I think it's really interesting to keep this in mind. Because while everybody says Donald Trump is escalating the war, Donald Trump is going to get us involved in a war, Donald Trump, the next step is for the U.S. to start bombing Iran, and Donald Trump, it's horrible what's happening, and Iran's going to go after American. All of this stuff that people are saying, all of this nonsense that you hear on the news. SecDef Hegseth, which is tough to say that 10 times fast. SecDef Hegseth. That's tough to say. That sounds like one of those warm-ups that, opera stars do before they sing. Anyway, here, listen to what he said, because he explained it, I think, pretty well.
So you're going to be in the situation room pretty soon with the president. Is he still aiming for a nuclear deal with the Iranians? Of course. The president's, as he said today, his position has not changed. What you're watching in real time is peace through strength and America first. Our job is to be strong. We are postured defensively in the region to be strong in pursuit of a peace deal. And we certainly hope that's what happens here. And America first means we're going to defend American personnel and American interests. So when you see jets and you see air defense assets and counter UAS assets, that's because my job as the Secretary of Defense is to ensure that our people are safe and that we're strong. So that we can set the conditions for a deal. And President Trump's made it clear it's on the table. The question is whether Iran will take it.
Right. Yeah. So that's what's happening right now. Donald Trump is saying, look, Iran needs this deal. And Iran is they're getting their butts whooped. I mean, they're getting their what's handed to them. It is not looking good for Iran. They're getting bombed. There's death. There's destruction. Their nuclear facilities are laying waste. It is just. It's not good. Israel has done a fairly good job. And yes, Iran has retaliated, and they've tried to blow up Tehran, and they've killed some people, and they've dropped some missiles, and that's unfortunate. But it's grossly, it is gross. They are grossly outgunned and outmanned, and they're being outdone by Israel. And with Donald Trump saying, look, you think Israel's got a scary military. Ours is 100 times bigger, 100 times more lethal, 100 times deadlier. All the stuff Iran has, let's be honest, they got it from all the stuff Israel got, they got it from the United States of America. And so we're not going to escalate. We're not going to enter, but we are going to send a whole bunch of people to the area to protect our assets, our troops, our bases, our positions, our American lives. We are going to send a whole bunch of military to protect our military. And when Iran sees that, they're going to realize that there's two ways to end this. Number one, end it. Call up Donald Trump, make the deal. Make the deal. Stop with the nuclear proliferation. Stop with the trying to enrich uranium. Stop with all that stuff. Make the deal. And then if they don't do that, it's only going to end in their destruction, because Israel's doing a bang up job. And if the United States needs to get involved, it's basically the end of Iran, because you know who's not coming to their defense? China. You know who's not coming to their defense? Russia. You know who's not coming to their defense? North Korea. Everybody, this is eye-opening for a lot of people. Iran was a useful idiot partner for these countries when they needed it. But now they realize that Iran is pointless. Donald Trump has already started making headway into the Middle East. He's already got deals with Saudi Arabia. He's already got deals with the United Arab Emirates. And, he was in Abu Dhabi, and he's in Qatar. And all of these countries in the Middle East are starting to form economic alliances with Donald Trump. And if you form an economic alliance with a country, you're not going to go to war with it. If you form an economic alliance with a country, you are not going to try to destroy it or start yelling, kill, death to all of those people over there. That's not going to happen, because money is a very powerful motivator. Donald Trump knows that, and he gets that. And Russia and China and North Korea see it. Iran's nothing. There's nothing in Iran that they need to protect anymore. And so they've abandoned it. And Iran is on their own. And that's why I believe that this will hopefully end pretty quickly. Speaking of China, let's get to the big story today, shall we? China, the new information from Kash Patel. Kash Patel, the FBI, the head of the FBI. What do you call it? Director of the FBI. Partner in crime of Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI. Let me pull up this tweet here so I can show it to you. This was from ex-FBI Director Kash Patel. The FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. election, including allegations of interference by the CCP, Chinese Communist Party. I have immediately declassified the material and turned the documents over to the chairman, Grassley, for further review. We call him the chairman now. This was an article from Just the News. FBI gives Congress intel on alleged Chinese plot to create fake mail-in ballots in 2020. Now, I want to read you this story because this is just incredible. As I said earlier today, there was a time when, hang on, let me just pull this up real quick so I can read it from it. There was a time when saying, the 2020 election, it was rigged, would get you thrown off of every social media platform. If I were broadcasting live on any of the platforms that I'm broadcasting live on right now, except for Rumble, and I said those words, if I insinuated in any way that there were fake ballots or election fraud, or that Joe Biden didn't receive 81 million votes from legitimate voters, or that mail-in ballots weren't safe and secure, any and all of those statements would have gotten you shut down, deleted. I mean, you can go through the list. Steven Crowder, us, I'm sure Bongino had it happen to him. Everybody who was broadcasting and live streaming at the time. We had meetings at the radio station. What we can and cannot say to make sure. Oh, there were lawsuits galore. Forget about it. Don't even get me started on the lawsuits, because I'm pretty sure after the deposition I signed something and I'm not allowed to actually say anything about the lawsuit. So I'm not gonna. But just know, there were lawsuits, there were depositions. Yours truly has firsthand knowledge of all that stuff. And now look at this, just a few years later. Here we are on the same platforms, and there is an actual news story about actual investigations at the actual Federal Bureau of Investigation, where you would believe these investigations would take place, about the Chinese. Go figure. The folks who brought you COVID may have also had some kind of hand in altering the course of the U.S. election in 2020, according to FBI Director Kash Patel. Man, I got to give it to those Chinese. What is there anything they can't do? Is there anything they can't do? COVID, manipulating elections. What else? Lo mein. There's just, it's incredible, the kinds of things. The iPhone, they come up with the most amazing stuff over there. But here's the article. FBI gives Congress intel on alleged Chinese plot to create fake mail-in ballots in 2020. Newly declassified intelligence report partially corroborated, but was recalled before it could be fully investigated, officials say. So this is really fascinating. This report that came out after the election was partially corroborated and then recalled. So what happened? I'll tell you what happened. The FBI, I guess someone there started to investigate, said, hey, you know what? Donald Trump may not be crazy. I know we're all thinking Donald Trump's just a sore loser. I know we're all thinking that Donald Trump's just trying to be a blowhard. I know we all think that Donald Trump is spreading disinformation in an effort to overthrow the government and interfere with democracy. But that may not actually be the case. He may actually be right. They partially corroborated the story, but then they recalled it and said, don't investigate it anymore. Why not? Well, if we investigate it, we find out it's true. We all look stupid, don't we? FBI Director Kash Patel on Monday evening turned over to Congress an intelligence report raising concerns that China had mass-produced fake U.S. driver's licenses to carry out a scheme to hijack the 2020 election with fake mail-in ballots for Democrat Joe Biden. So, China's scheme was to print, allegedly, these driver's licenses, fake U.S. driver's licenses, so that they could have, and here's the thing. somebody's getting these mail-in ballots. We're not really, I imagine they're not going to China. I imagine that would be suspect if all of a sudden thousands of ballots ended up in China and then they were sent back with Chinese. I would say, if I were to run a scam, that's not the way I would do it, but I didn't run the scam. Anyway, the newly declassified intelligence reports from August 2020 weren't corroborated or fully investigated and instead were recalled from intelligence agencies at about the time that then FBI Director Christopher Wray testified there were no known plots of foreign interference ahead of the 2020 election in which Biden defeated Donald Trump, officials told Just the News. Isn't that convenient timing? So Christopher Wray goes to testify that there's no known plots of foreign interference ahead of the 2020 election. And that's about the same time that this report was recalled, so that I guess what? He could go to Congress and not commit perjury for a change? The new documents were turned over to Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley from Iowa, who had first raised concerns to the Bureau that the intelligence hadn't been fully vetted and instead was just dismissed, even though there was evidence of the fake licenses. Quote, thanks to the oversight work and partnership of Chairman Grassley, the FBI continues to provide unprecedented transparency at the People's Bureau, Patel told Just the News in a statement. To that end, we have located documents Chairman Grassley requested which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. election. Specifically, these include allegations of plans from the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, to manufacture fake driver's licenses, ship them into the United States for the purpose of facilitating fraudulent mail-in ballots. Allegations which, while substantiated, were abruptly recalled and never disclosed to the public, Patel also said. All right, conspiracy theorists. Here's another day for you. Here's a red letter day for the conspiracy theorists. For any and all of you who thought that there was massive election interference going on, for any and all of you who thought that the election was fraudulent, to any and all of you who said and were persecuted for and may have even been fired from your jobs, myself included, for making allegations that there was some kind of plot against Donald Trump in the 2020 election and that mail-in ballots or some other kind of shenanigans may have actually shifted the election one way or the other, we now have a confirmed report from the FBI, from the government, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, saying that the allegations were substantiated. They said they proved them, but then they were recalled and never disclosed to the public in 2020. I mean, it's almost like people were saying that all along. Conspiracy theories used to be conspiracy theories. Now they're just predictions of the future. That's what it is. That's all it is. Anyone who says, hey, here's what happened during the election, guess what? They're not a conspiracy theorist. They're just letting you know what the news is going to be 2-3 years down the road. Officials who have seen the documents told Just the News the FBI had a relatively new confidential source who provided information in summer 2020 that the Chinese government was manufacturing and exporting fake U.S. driver's licenses as part of a plot to create voter identities for Chinese residents living in the United States so they could vote with fake mail-in ballots. Oh, I see. So the Chinese government, not some this is not, somebody went on Temu and ordered a bajillion driver's licenses and had them shipped over in a container. That's not what this is. This is a Chinese government plot because the Chinese government was manufacturing them. According to this whistleblower, the Chinese government was exporting them. According to this unnamed confidential source, the Chinese government was sending them to Chinese residents, meaning if you're a Chinese resident, you're not an American resident. If you're not an American resident, you're not an American citizen. So these Chinese residents were getting fake driver's licenses so that they could get mail-in ballots and vote for Donald Trump. I'm sorry. No, I'm sure. I don't know who they voted for, but I'm guessing it wasn't the guy. It wasn't the guy who lost that election, quote unquote. The intelligence source claimed the plot was specifically designed to benefit Biden. There you go. They also said the intelligence report was recalled within a few weeks and the allegations never fully investigated on the grounds that the source needed to be re-interviewed. But in fact, another agency, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, had intercepted nearly 20,000 fake licenses around the time the intelligence came in, a possible corroboration of the report, officials said. I don't have handy, and I didn't have time to look up because I don't have any, it's just me. I'm doing everything, folks. I'm pulling the audio. I'm doing the thumbnails. I'm writing the titles. I'm sending out the emails. I'm posting on Facebook. I'm doing it all. I didn't have time to research. But I imagine if you go back to the 2020 election and you look at the states and you look at how the Wisconsin and the Michigan and the Pennsylvania specifically ballot. In fact, you know what? We're going to do that right now. 2020 election results, Pennsylvania. Let's just go see real quick here. Pennsylvania election results 2020 live map updates. Here we go. Joe Biden won Pennsylvania by, looks like, oh, look at that, 80,000 votes. So if that's the case, that 20,000 could have put a dent the other way. If we go to 2020 election in Michigan, let's look at the Michigan results and see what they were. Let me pull these up here. That was a little wider margin. And then we'll go to Wisconsin. Let's go to 20. And again, these are all, of course, if there's one plot, there's, that's just the 20,000 they knew about. But all of these margins, there were so many close margins of victory. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Oh, look at this. In Wisconsin. Wouldn't you know it? Exactly 20,000 votes separated Joe Biden from Donald Trump. And that's exactly how many driver's licenses they mentioned in this particular article. 20,000 nearly 20,000 fake licenses. And Wisconsin was won by Joe Biden by 20,000 votes. It's a red letter day. Conspiracy theorists, pop some bottles tonight. You guys worked hard. You guys took a lot of crap. You guys were doxxed and canceled, and you were suppressed, and you were laughed at, and you had fingers pointed at you for years. And you persevered, and now look what's happening. The truth is finally coming out because President Donald Trump's back in office. Kash Patel's back at the FBI, and people aren't afraid to talk anymore. People are not afraid to tell the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Now, we can't undo what was done in the past, but we can definitely learn from it. And we're learning quite a bit. We're learning quite a bit. That's for sure. I got it. It's amazing to me. And look, and don't think that this isn't going. I mean, I hope. You know what? Okay, I should not speak so quickly. I hope that the Republicans in Congress, I hope that Chuck Grassley, I hope that everybody else who is there now is not going to waste their time because we have a deadline. We have a deadline of 2026. 2026, there's a midterm election. And as I stated yesterday in the speech, that is a funny story that remind me to tell you about in just a minute. 97% of the time, the party in power of the House of Representatives loses in the midterms. 97% of the time, the party in power loses in the midterms. The party in power right now is the Republicans. Donald Trump is the president. He's in charge of the White House. We've got a firm grip on the Senate. It could get even firmer, but the House of Representatives, slim majority, like the tiniest of majorities. And if you take out Thomas Massie, who basically votes no on everything, it's even slimmer. So it's very important. Nay, it is crucial. It is crucial that we hire, and by hire, I mean elect, Republicans, conservative Republicans, combative conservative Republicans for two reasons. Reason number one, if, for example, we lose the House, which 97% of the time we're supposed to be doing, we're going to need people who are going to fight back against the bogus impeachments, which will be coming up for Donald Trump. We're going to need people who are going to fight back against the bogus, stupid bills and the blocking of Donald Trump's agenda and the ridiculousness. We're going to need all those people to argue and fight and go into the media and I mean, as miserable as the Democrats try to make our lives, we're going to have to do the same for them. And if we retain the House of Representatives, it'll be at a slim margin as well. And we're only going to have 2 more years left of President Donald Trump, which means we're going to need someone who can go in there and who can fight every single day to push through in a quick way, in a very, very, very rapid manner, the rest of President Donald Trump's agenda. And that is, of course, again, one of the reasons why I'm running for Congress in Florida's 5th District. And I'll tell you that story here in just a minute. First, though, we got a couple of super chats. And don't forget, if you would like to support the show, the easiest way to do it is to send us a super chat on YouTube or a Rumble rant on Rumble. You click a button, and whatever dollar amount you can send us, we'll share it. We will read out your message. We'll shout you out, whatever you call it. We got a couple here. This is from Never Stop. Never Stop sent a $10 super chat. Thank you, Never Stop. And wrote, will there be a debate between you and Rutherford? That's a great question. You know, it's interesting because, and I said this before, right now, Congressman John Rutherford, who is the man that I am running against, he's our current representative, has not declared that he's actually running again. Somebody pointed that out to me. They say, you know, you're going after Rutherford and you're attacking Rutherford, but is he even running? And the fact of the matter is no. And most Congress people, let's be honest, they don't really declare anything until the year of. So in January or February, maybe before December if he's deciding not to. But, you know, sometime around Christmas, they're going to have to start making plans for next year and planning for an election. And they're going to have to decide, yeah, I'm going to run again, or no, I'm just going to call it quits. But right now, I mean, I've got it. That's the guy. He's the guy in power. He's the incumbent. And if he wants to retain the seat, I imagine there's not a lot of people in the Republican establishment who are going to try to go in and boot him off of his pedestal. I'm not in the Republican establishment, so I'm all about it. And that, you know, hopefully gives me a leg up. But I doubt there will be a debate because this guy doesn't like to talk to people. He doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't do town hall meetings. He doesn't do interviews. He's never on the news. You don't really know what he's doing. And I think that's all by design because he doesn't want you to know what he's doing. We got another super chat from Never Stop for $5. Oh yeah, so like a total of $15. No message tied to that one, but Never Stop. Thank you so very much. Julie Toomey with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Julie. I've been saying 2020 was stolen since that very night. Kudos to all who also knew the whole time, which is why I'll help Mark Kaye run for Congress. Julie Toomey, you help us in so many ways every single day. Julie is one of our illustrious mods, part of the mod squad, who helps moderate our chat and our live streams every single day. And we appreciate everything she does because it's all out of the goodness of her heart. And it's time that she donates. And now she's donating money too. So what a saint you are, Julie Toomey. I appreciate it. Listen, if you want to give directly to the campaign, it's really easy to do. All you have to do is go to markkforcongress.com, markkforcongress.com. All right, speaking of Congress, let's talk a little bit about the bill, shall we? Let's talk about the big, beautiful bill, because the big, beautiful bill is big, it is beautiful, and it is something that hopefully we're getting close to. Oh, you know what, though? Before we do that, okay, you know what? Before we get to the big, beautiful bill, let's talk about ICE, shall we? There's a guy running for mayor in New York. His name is Zoran Mamdani, and he is, I believe, Muslim. He's from somewhere. I don't know where he's from. Zoran Mamdani. And this guy, because Eric Adams is, there's like a special election or whatever it is. And Eric Adams is running as an independent because he hates the Democrats and they hate him, whatever. This guy, I think he may be the front runner or he's gaining momentum but he's a legitimate candidate. This guy is a legitimate candidate. Listen to this. This is him losing his mind, going totally crazy and trying to attack Tom Homan in New York yesterday.
How many more New Yorkers without charge? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? How many more New Yorkers without charge?
Yeah, there you go. That's good. This is the guy, by the way. You're not going to be shocked at all to hear this, but Bernie, I've got 3 houses Sanders has just thrown his support behind Zoran Mamdani.
How many more New Yorkers without charge? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? How many more New Yorkers without charge?
I mean, he's being held back by police. He's frothing at the mouth. This guy wants to be the mayor, and he has to be subdued by law enforcement. What is it with Democrats trying to attack Republicans? What is it? Why is this the new thing? Why is this the new normal? Why is it that we have the Monica McIver pushing her big old body on law enforcement agents and ICE agents at a ICE facility, trying to break through the gates to do God knows what when she gets inside. Why is that a thing? Why do we have Alex Padilla in California trying to bum rush Kristi Noem? Trying to attack her at the podium while she's giving a press conference, having to be arrested and subdued and handcuffed and dragged out by authorities. Why now do we have this Zoran Mamdani guy again getting subdued by police, being kept away from Tom Homan because he looks like he's trying to get violent? Just totally. I mean, this guy has lost his mind. Bernie Sanders thinks it's great. Bernie Sanders goes, this is great. This is exactly the kind of guy we need. This is the guy we need as mayor in New York. Bernie Sanders backs Zoran Mamdani in New York City mayoral primary. Sanders joins Ocasio-Cortez, of course, in supporting Mamdani as Cuomo seeks comeback and Adams runs as an independent. So this is what we got, folks. Be glad you're not in New York. Be glad you're not a New Yorker. This is not the days of Rudy Giuliani. This is not even the early days of what's his name, Bloomberg. This is now Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams, and Zoran Mamdani. Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez have endorsed the left-wing New York City mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani in the latest boost to his insurgent campaign. Mamdani, a Democrat socialist like Sanders, is the main rival to the campaign of the former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is seeking to rehabilitate his political career after leaving office amid sexual harassment allegations. Cuomo, 67, began the race as a dominant favorite, but Mamdani, 33, has surged in recent weeks. 33 years old, this guy is. Netting the key endorsement of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one poll even showed him edging into the lead. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, Mamdani surges a new poll, leading Cuomo for first time in New York mayor's race. The former governor has topped every voter survey since entering the race, but the Democrat socialist is gaining on him. So in New York, here are your choices, folks. You've got the disgraced sexual predator, Andrew Cuomo, who's trying to make a return as mayor of New York. And then you've got the 33-year-old AOC Bernie Sanders-backed left-wing lunatic socialist, Zoran Mamdani. And if you don't like either of those, you can reelect Eric Adams, who's now running as an independent because, well, I mean, let's face it, nobody in his own party likes him. And they tried to throw him in jail because he said, and here was his crime. This is the craziest thing to me. Eric Adams went to Joe Biden and said, no more immigrants. We can't handle it. We don't have money. No more. It's going to destroy our city. And Joe Biden said, shut up. Shut up. That's not the narrative. You're going to take them and you're going to like it. And they didn't give him any more money and they didn't take anyone away and they kept sending immigrants and they kept bringing in immigrants and he had to transform hotels and transform parking garages. And in Brooklyn, they were putting them in these kids, school cafeterias and these kids' school auditoriums and gymnasiums. They couldn't go to PE class because there were illegal immigrants sprawled all over the gymnasium floor. It was ridiculous what was going on in New York. And Eric Adams, whose job it is to protect New Yorkers, said, New York's going to fail. We cannot sustain this. It's unsustainable. I need help. And instead of giving him help, the Democrat Party tried to throw him in jail. The Democrat Party trumped up some charges. They tried to take him to court. They tried to put him in jail. They tried to ruin the guy. They tried to make him the next Donald Trump. And Donald Trump even said, I knew exactly what was going to happen. As soon as he came out saying, stop the flow of immigrants, Donald Trump said, I knew they were going to do that to you. And they did. And so Eric Adams, who's the only guy who seems to really want to save the city of New York, is in third place. And you have either the disgraced, womanizing sexual predator, Andrew Cuomo, or the crazed, lunatic, 33-year-old left-wing socialist, Zoran Mamdani. Yeah. Senator Merkley from Oregon, who's basically a left-wing socialist too, but just hides it a little bit better, is also very angry at Tom Homan.
I must say, John, I really want to stress what the president is doing in LA is so wrong. He is pouring fuel on the fire. We saw this in my home state of Oregon, in Portland, during the first Trump administration, sending out folks who had no identification. They were throwing people into vans that were unmarked. It was very much reminiscent of a fascist state. And this is his distraction, and the huge distraction going on from this horrific bill he's putting forward, this not so big and beautiful bill, this big, beautiful betrayal of working class America. Huge distraction from that. We have to remember what he is up to, and that he is basically having a families lose, billionaires strategy billionaires win strategy. And the result is he wants to distract America from that. And so let's keep pushing back that it is wrong to nationalize the use of our National Guard. It's wrong to send in Marines. The local forces have this controlled. Quit pouring fuel on the fire and trying to create riots in America.
You know, it's really interesting because the Democrats have no problem using the FBI, the Department of Justice, the IRS. They have no problem using the CDC. They have no problem using any government agency they can to attack people that they don't like or to attack people that they feel are a threat. Mostly Republicans, mostly Donald Trump. The FBI, the DOJ were used repeatedly by the Democrats to attack Donald Trump and stop what they saw as an imminent threat to America. And now Donald Trump is using things that are actually under his command. He's the commander in chief. He has the right to call in the National Guard. He has the right to call in the Marine Corps or anyone else that he wants to try to stop and to protect Americans from another threat to our republic, and that is the surge of illegal immigrants and the sanctuary cities that are helping to protect them. Sanctuary cities like LA and, well, Portland, Oregon, and all the other ones. And so now Jeff Merkley is out there saying this is just Donald Trump distracting from his big, beautiful bill, which steals from the poor Americans and gives to the billionaires. That's the only thing they have. That's the only thing that they have now. Here's Senator Chuck Schumer continuing the lie that Donald Trump is cutting money from Medicaid.
Look, the bottom line is that the Republicans are trying to cut Medicaid for people who need it.
Yeah. This is, by the way, the lie there is, and look, he's trying to wrap it up. Okay. Listen to what he said again, because what he's saying isn't technically false, but it is 100% not true.
Look, the bottom line is that the Republicans are trying to cut Medicaid for people who need it.
The Republicans are trying to cut Medicaid for people who need it. The people he's talking about, notice he didn't say Americans, notice he didn't say citizens, he said people. The people he's talking about are illegal immigrants. So Republicans are going through Medicaid. They're looking to see who doesn't deserve it, doesn't need it, doesn't qualify for it, and they're going to cut them off the rolls. And Chuck Schumer so eloquently stated that Republicans are cutting Medicare and Medicaid for people who need it. But just because you need it doesn't mean you get it, especially if you're in this country illegally. The trick there is to make Americans think, if I need Medicaid, if I need Medicare, the Republicans are coming for it. And that's just not at all true. But what else would you expect from Senator Schumer? Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin also is out there fear-mongering about the one big, beautiful bill.
Even worse, it is also in service of finding every dollar that they can to pay for their scheme to rig the tax code for big corporations and their wealthy friends. The more I think about it, I'm struck by the idea that this provision so perfectly captures what this Republican Party has come to stand for. To tilt the tax code in favor of the rich and huge corporations at all costs.
This is a Democrat saying that the tax code is being tilted toward the rich. Do we not remember Donald Trump going after Hillary Clinton in the debate saying, I know that the tax code is fixed because I use it. And you're not going to do anything about it because you and your rich friends use it too. The tax code has always been tilted toward the rich. What Donald Trump is trying to do is untilt it. And the Democrats are petrified because where are they going to get their money? Where are the Democrats going to get their tax dollars? The way that it works with the Democrats is they raise taxes on Americans. They hire IRS agents, and their job is to go into your Venmo accounts. And if you make any kind of transaction, $600 or more, they're gonna scrape every last dime they can from you. They're gonna take all that tax money. They're gonna give it to their donors, and they're gonna give it to their government contractor friends, and they're gonna give it to everybody who then will turn around and support their campaigns and keep them in power and give them consulting jobs when they retire and put them on boards. All of those things are going to happen because when you're in Congress, when you're in the Senate, your job is to spend Americans' money. And Donald Trump is saying our job should now be to save Americans' money. And if we save Americans' money, that means the government's not spending it. And if the government's not spending it, then those senators and those congresspeople are not going to get any special favors. And taxes, for the first time in years, are now the main concern for Americans instead of Bidenflation, which is a move in the right direction and something that Donald Trump is now trying to tackle.
Well, this bill is incredibly important. It'll deliver the largest tax cut in American history for our job creators and for working families. And as you just mentioned, it's small businesses. Look, these small business provisions, including making the pass-through deduction permanent, will unleash Main Street, including adding 1 million jobs, $750 billion in economic growth, not to mention what it does for working families. It puts on average $13,000 back into the pockets of hardworking families across this country. And so my message is that this one big beautiful bill is pro-small business, it's pro-worker, and it puts America first by increasing the immediate expensing of investments in America. And that's what we need right now because President Trump is already working on fair trade, on making sure we're deregulating. Now tax cuts, that's the number one concern of small businesses is taxes for the first time in 4 years, thanks to President Trump getting inflation under control.
And taxes for small businesses are going to make or break this country. Small businesses are going to make, here's the thing. If you have a major corporation, if you're a Fortune 500 company and your taxes go up, it's not going to hurt you in the least. If you're one of these billionaire S&P traded companies and the economy starts to flounder, you're going to be just fine. But if you're a small business, it could make or break you, probably break you. And so tax cuts it's the one thing that truly is going to change for everyone.
The 199A tax exemption that you're referring to, it's huge to small business. It's probably one of the most important things that's out there at the moment. You know, it affects roughly 26 million entrepreneurs. And what it does is it's going to generate growth in businesses, and then it's going to allow increased spending back into the businesses, which will ultimately generate more revenue.
Yeah. It's really
the 199.
It's one of the most important parts of the bill is cutting taxes to middle-class Americans, because when you cut taxes to middle-class Americans, you're helping small businesses, you're helping entrepreneurs. And remember, every big business was once a small business. And there are millions of Americans, and we learned this during COVID. There are millions of Americans who are employed by small businesses. And when those small businesses go under, or when those small businesses fail, what you see is that you have a lot of people that lose their jobs. They lose their health care. They lose their ability to make money. And in doing so, they also lose their ability to pay taxes. Because if you're not employed, you're not paying taxes. If you don't have an income, your income is not taxed. And so that is why it's so important. That is why it's so important and it's so transformative that these Trump tax cuts become permanent. And the no tax on tips, who does no tax on tips mostly affect? Small businesses. Why? Well, because restaurants and spas, they are all tip workers. Anyone who works in a restaurant, any server, anyone who works at as a valet or any of those are small business employees. And they work on tips. And if their tips aren't taxed, that's a huge benefit for the small businesses and also their employees. Donald Trump as an entrepreneur, being in charge of this country, it's probably one of the best things. It's probably one of the best things we could have had. Speaking of entrepreneurs, we've had for a very long time a lot of people calling me and writing me and asking me about podcasting, because I now have not one, but two successful podcasts. And I not only have one, but two successful podcasts, it's my only job. I've created my own entertainment media company, and I've decided that I'm no longer going to work for the man, because the man is basically a liberal, and I'm not. So a lot of people have been asking me, especially in my Golden Age Influencer Network and everywhere else that I go, about podcasting. They always have questions. How do you do it? How do you monetize it? How do you start one? What's the best way? What kind of equipment do you use? So I've decided to do something, and this is totally free of charge. Next Wednesday, June the 25th, I'm hosting what I call Podcast Profits Live. And it's going to be a live Zoom. I'm going to be right here. I'm going to be live. And I'm going to go through everything that I do in my day. It's going to take about an hour. I'm going to go through everything that I do to create, to plan, and to monetize using multiple streams of income, both of my podcasts. And the things that I've taught other people who have podcasts to do as well to monetize their podcast. Now, again, this is a free event, but you do have to register. So there's a link in the description of this video. It's markkaye.com/podcast-profits. But you can go to the link. You can register for free. It's Wednesday, June 25th at 8 p.m. And I'm going to give you the entire, here's what we're going to show. I'm going to show you how to take the knowledge you already have, the content you've already created, and the ideas you already share, and turn them into a professional podcast that generates cash flow from multiple streams of income. Number two, I'm going to show you the easiest way to record and distribute your podcast for free. I don't do this, but I started by recording and editing and distributing my podcast for free. And now I've turned it into a podcast company that creates multiple multimedia products, repurposing your podcast into a multimedia empire. So you can take your podcast and generate various different products, videos, emails, webinars, articles, books, all kinds of stuff, subscriptions and merchandise. And then, of course, why in the new golden age you must have a podcast. This is called Podcast Profits Live. It's Wednesday, June 25th at 8 p.m. It's live. It's not pre-recorded. It's me. You give me a little bit of information, and then we will send you the link to the Zoom call, and then you can join us. It's about an hour. Like I said, it's going to be very informative. I'm very excited about it. I love talking about entrepreneurship. I love talking about podcasts. I love talking about myself. And most importantly, I love helping other people learn how to take their business to the next level. And when you look at this one big, beautiful bill, right? When you look at everything that's happening, you start to see, hey, Donald Trump really is focused on Americans, and he's really focused on making America great again and making America rich again. And one of the things one of the things he's doing to help with that is to give Americans the ability and the necessity and the assets and the money and the freedom that they need to make their dreams come true. So if you have a small business, or if you've thought of starting a small business, or anything at all, now's the best time to take advantage of it. And I want to help you. I want to be there every step of the way. I just put the link in the description of the Rumble video, and it's also in the YouTube. And if you're anywhere else, just go to markkaye.com/podcast-profits. I'll change that tomorrow. I'll make it a little easier. Podcast-profits. And you'll be able to sign up again for this free live event, Wednesday, June the 25th at 8 o'clock. All right. So do I have time to tell them? Okay, so this is kind of funny. So yesterday I went to I've been doing a lot of speaking. As you know, when you run for office, a lot of people want to hear you speak because, if they're going to vote for you, they want to know who you are and what you stand for. And that makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. So I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements. I was out yesterday at a meeting, and then tonight I'm again at another meeting where am I going to be? I'm going to be at the Gators Dockside in Fruit Cove, doing an event that starts at 6:30. It's going to be fantastic. And if you want to join, if you want to come hear me speak, you can come to Gators Dockside in Fruit Cove at 6:30 p.m. I'll post that up on my social media here before too long. But last night I was at the REC meeting, the GOP of Duval County, and it was just listening. There was a friend of mine was there giving a speech. He's a city councilman. He's great. Talking to a lot of people. A lot of people were excited about the announcement video, and they saw me on the news and that kind of thing. And so what happened was, one of the guys I was talking to said, "Hey, do you want me to record your candidate speech?" And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, I'm not here to give a speech. I'm just here for the meeting." And he looked at me kind of weird, like, "You're not going to give a candidate speech? You're a candidate." And I go, "No, maybe down the road, but not not today." So then, watching the meeting, listening to the meeting, whatever, at the end of the meeting, the chairman says, "Okay, if there are any declared candidates," meaning you filed to run, you can now take 90 seconds to speak to the group. And so there's a guy who's filed to run for mayor. There's another guy who filed to run for city council. They start walking up there and I go, oh, that's what you meant about, oh. So then I'm like, well, I filed, so I'd have to go. Everyone's looking at me like, Mark, why aren't you going up there? So I walk up there and I get in the back of the line. So I'm third of the 3 speeches. And I'm sitting there going, I didn't actually prepare a speech, but it was only 90 seconds. And 90 seconds is a breeze, no problem. So 90 seconds is a breeze. So I get up there. And I jump up, and the mayor guy was great. He had a great speech, and then the city council guy was great. He was wearing a suit. He looked like a city councilman. He did a great job. I jumped up there and I said, "Hi, I'm Mark Kaye, and I'm running for Congress." And people started to cheer. And then I got into my speech, and then I got really into it. And I got hyped, and I got passionate. And I was like, this, that, and the other, and that, this, and the other. And Democrats are crazy, and Republicans are lazy, and fight, fight, fight. And it was really. And the next thing I know, everyone's like jumping up and they're screaming. They're like, "Woo, yay, Mark Kaye!" And I get off the stage, and one of the guys I was talking to was like, I videotaped the whole thing here. Let me airdrop it to you. So he airdropped it to me. And I was like, oh, this is great. So I go home and I'm talking to my wife and I'm talking to my kids and I'm showing them the video. All of a sudden I get a text message from the chairman saying, reminder, you're not allowed to post that video online. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, I would never. I don't even post online. And I was like, darn it, that was that. But it's okay, because I was like, all I'll do is I'll just go recreate that speech somewhere else next time I speak to a group. But then I woke up this morning, 6 o'clock. I woke up, I'm brushing my teeth. 6 o'clock in the morning, I get another text message from the chairman going, hey, actually, we checked the bylaws and there's absolutely no reason why you can't post that video. And I said, oh, even better, thanks. And I immediately ran to my office and posted it at like 6:01 this morning. So if you go on my X or my Facebook or anything like that, you can watch it. But it was only 90 seconds. Tonight, I'm doing like 45 minutes. And there'll be Q&A and all kinds of great stuff. So listen, if you want to support the campaign, I would love for you to support our campaign, because like I said, we are the underdog. We are the outlier. We need all the help we can get. MarkKforCongress.com. And don't forget, one of the best ways you can support us is just subscribing to this podcast and listening every single day. Subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on Spotify, subscribe on iHeart, wherever you happen to be. You want to listen. And you know what? Tell someone else too, because yesterday I got 3 people that came up to me and said, when are you getting back on the radio? And I said, have you not heard? I have a podcast now. And they go, I still don't know. I don't know about podcasts. How do I listen to a podcast? How do I find your podcast? As much as it's new technology and as much as it's taken over and as much as, I just saw Joe Rogan. Like, there's this thing about Joe Rogan now. He apparently is the #1 news source, I think, is the article. Let me see if I can find this article. Joe Rogan is like the #1 news source for people. He surpasses, I know where I saw it. I saw it on Newsmax was reporting about how Joe Rogan is actually beating all the major news sources. With the other one, the girl, the sex girl, what's the sex talk podcast? Oh, Who's Your Daddy? Right? What do we used to call it, the porno sex talk or something. Anyway, doesn't matter. Alex Cooper, they have a whole documentary on her and how she's like the highest paid female influencer and she's given Joe Rogan a run for money. Anyway, look at this from Newsmax. Consumers shift to Joe Rogan and away from traditional news. Joe Rogan, the guy from News Radio and Fear Factor, who was a color commentary guy for the UFC, still is now like the #1 news source in the world. Isn't that amazing? I mean, kudos to Joe Rogan, but podcasting is the new media, and there's still so many people out there who just haven't figured it out. So if you know someone, or if you're one of those people, then help a brother out. Help your older parents, your aunts and uncles. Help your doddering neighbor who's looking for me or who's trying to find something good to listen to, who wants the truth instead of the fiction that you get from the fake news. Help them out. Help them figure out how to get this podcast, because we need all the help we can get, and we want to continue to deliver the news. We want to continue to deliver the news. We want to continue to bring you the truth. We want to continue to grow our Katriot Coalition. We want to continue to grow the number of Katriots we have. I'm here every single day at Mar-a-Lago doing the podcast, and I'm not doing it for my health. I'm doing it for our health. the country's health. I'm doing it so that we're all on the same page. We know who's coming after us, who's attacking us, and how we need to prepare. We need to know what battles we're going to fight, who we're going to fight, and then we need to fight every single day so that we can continue to save the republic. All right. We have, coming up in just a few minutes, an after party. And if you want to see the speech, the 90-second speech, and you don't want to go to my X page, I'll play it during the after party because it was kind of funny. And I'll give you some more behind the scenes. It's members only, katriots.com. Join the Katriot Club, become a member of the after party. It's going to happen here in about, 3 minutes.